Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell.
Hey everyone, I'm John Brenkus. Thanks so much for joining us for the first live streaming event for Killcliff, the clean energy drink. Now, to say we've been going through some tough times as a country is the ultimate understatement. Feels like this COVID crisis just sort of collectively knocked us down, but now it's time to get back up. Time to be resilient. Now, Killcliff was founded by a Navy SEAL, and resilience is in our DNA. So we felt obligated to try to contribute and really sort of try to contribute some positive energy to the world. Tonight, you're going to get a chance to hear from some incredible people who have deep insight on how to be resilient. We want tonight's streaming event to hopefully serve as a body of work that can help you be more resilient. And there's no one better to help give that kind of insight than Navy SEALs and elite athletes. Now, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and open up the panel and throw them in the YouTube chat. But before we meet our panel, I want you to hear some encouraging words from our good friend, Bear Grylls.
Hey guys, it's Bear here, just to say that I know so many people all around the world are going through such a tough time at the moment. You know, with all of this coronavirus, whether it's people in China or people on lockdown or in Italy, you know, people who are suffering with the virus or loved ones who are, or just people who've had so much of their lives disrupted. But just to say, you know, tough times make tough people. You'll get through this, we'll all get through this. We'll get through it together. But the message is, remember, the storms don't last forever. Stay strong. Look after each other, make smart decisions, wash your hands lots, be careful of, you know, big gatherings of people. Just stay maybe away from that for a while until this has passed. But above all, keep the spirit, you know, that never give up, NGU spirit. That can conquer everything.
All right. Just like Bear said, tough times make tough people. It's time to introduce you to some incredibly tough folks. First up, former Navy SEAL and president of Killcliff, John Timar. Timar,
hey,
what's
John,
up?
what's up? Hey, man, how's it going?
It's going awesome, man. How are you feeling?
Good. I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me on here tonight.
All right. We also have another former Navy SEAL, Andy Stump. Andy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm always good. Where are you right now in the world?
I'm in northwestern Montana.
Nice. All right. Next up also, we have a sniper school classmate of Andy's from 1999, former Navy SEAL Coleman Ruiz. Coleman, how are you?
Good, doing well. Thanks for having me, John.
Where are you in the world right now?
I'm outside of DC.
Nice. All right. So listen, we've got three incredible Navy SEALs on our panel. I want to know from you guys, let's go around the horn, starting with John. What are some tips for being resilient that the average person might not think about?
That the average person might not think about. I think the average person is perfectly capable of thinking about this stuff. I think resilience comes from focus and adaptability. I think you need to focus on what you can control and look at, steps towards going the direction you want to go in life.
Right.
Opportunity comes with movement. And I think that's something you can look at in everything. And you can distill some opportunity out of events that happen, whether they're positive or negative.
What do you think, Andy?
I think I would open with that the SEAL community is full of average people. It's not a community that is full of people that are atypical or aren't found throughout society. I mean, they might have an uncommon job, but I think most people that serve in that community would say that the people that they were surrounded by or themselves specifically are very average. And I would consider myself directly in that boat. So there's no special tool or advice that I can necessarily give other than, being average or below average, I should say, is a choice. And if you want to be resilient, in my mind, it comes from, if you look at how you want to get physically strong, you build your body. You don't go into the gym one time and destroy yourself. You squat more than you ever have in your life after having not squatted for 10 years and you can't walk the next day. You go in and you get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger, and it takes time, and you should expect that it should. Resiliency is kind of the same thing. You're bending yourself a little bit at a time. And a lot of people can do that through physical activity or doing something that challenges them. But the end goal is to not become something that's amazing overnight. It's just to work on it over a long period of time. That's my biggest advice to people is go out and bend yourself before the world bends you.
Well, Coleman, so is average really a state of mind? I mean, are Navy SEALs really just average folks who have sort of upped their game more than most people, or do we all have that in us?
Oh, I mean, as the guys have said, everybody has it in them. For me, until 9 years ago when I got out, John, my life was two things. It was wrestling first in high school and college, and then it was the SEAL teams. And I can take any given scenario in either one of those environments. I was a normal kid from New Orleans, like every other normal kid, and you build resilience 1% at a time, and you get into certain situations that we would consider really, really crappy. And I think it's dangerous when we start to grade the situation, right? So take surf torture in the SEAL teams, right? Sitting in the surf zone, doing nothing. It takes no physical energy whatsoever. What people start to do is say, oh, it's cold. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. When you start to play the game of something's hard or easy, and you're trying to put it on the scorecard, you're giving away your opportunity to be a little bit, as Andy said, to bend yourself a little bit. Water's not cold or hot. Water's just water. And you can't put a grade on everything you do, because then you're comparing yourself to everybody else all the time. And that's just not useful.
Right. So tell me a quick story from you guys in terms of were you in a situation, whether or not, in or out of being a Navy, being active Navy SEAL, maybe even in your own personal life, when you felt like your back was up against the wall and somehow you persevered? Andy, what do you think?
My back up against a wall?
Yeah.
I think the situations in my life, specifically my old job, that maybe were the most problematic were likely the ones where you don't have any control over. Being on the receiving end of an ambush sucks, not necessarily because somebody is shooting at you, but because you're very reactive in nature and you didn't get to choose when that activity started, and you're largely not in control of that initial activity.
Right.
Or, you're riding in a helicopter and the helicopter all of a sudden decides it doesn't want to fly correctly, and you're hoping that the pilots are able to, pull it out. At any time in my life where I feel like I don't have a lot of control, those are the situations I think where you really kind of get tested and you can get a better look between your ears and see how the individual is doing. But again, your likelihood of success in those environments, to me, is directly related to how many times you have been bent or have bent yourself at a microscopic level leading up to them. Training, again, I consider myself to be an exceptionally average person. I might have been exposed to some, beyond average things or beyond average training, but there's a systematic approach to all of it. And it doesn't start with just being overwhelmed on day one. It's a slow, methodical layering of stress and pressure over time. And if you do that enough, you get to a point where you realize that there's really no situation that you can't overcome. You focus on controlling the things that you can control and letting go of the things that you can't. And even just that in and of itself, focusing on only the things that you can control is drastically can improve your success or failure in those environments where your back is up against the wall.
Right. Timar, what's a good story that you have for me? Something where you felt like you were down and out and somehow you made it through. You're not really a negative guy, so this is going to be tough, but when did you feel like, wow, this is tough?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think my answer might be a little bit different contextually. For me, it was when I left the military service. And unlike these guys, I didn't do a long career in the service. So, and it was still impactful. I left the service during a recession. And frankly, I couldn't get a job. And having come from an environment where I felt like and I agree with everything Andy has said, because I am also an exceptionally average guy. Like people are telling me I was too fat to be a SEAL, right? So I'm exceptionally average. But when you are operating at a SEAL, you are operating at an exceptional level in a very exclusive club in a way. And when I got out of the service, I kind of had this expectation that was just going to translate right into my next role in life in the civilian world, and everything was going to be the same. And it was fundamentally different. The reasons I got out of the service didn't materialize. I couldn't get a job. I didn't make any meaningful money until I was in my 30s in terms of being able to really support myself. And it was a very difficult experience. And what I learned along the way were a couple things that were things that I think I picked up, when I was in SEAL training and SEAL teams during my time of service. I think one of them was I learned how to be kind of malleable and adaptable to my environment, because everything that I thought I was going to do, it either didn't happen or I failed at it. And that was really, coming from that background, I guess maybe I had a little bit of hubris and arrogance. That was unexpected, and it really grounded me. And what I learned in that was that, given my setbacks, that my identity was not I'm a Navy SEAL. That's one part of my identity that makes up who I am, and I need to be grounded in myself and take the noise and separate it from everything I was doing in life, and focus on just being what I can be, and to adapt and realize that I have these attributes and skills that I learned and I developed along the way in some very tough trials and tests, and I can easily apply them to things that can put me directionally where I want to go in life. And it's not going to be linear, but for me, the biggest challenge I had was embracing the sense of self that was different from having it all wrapped around a job that I had in particular, and dealing with complete failure and setback and no opportunities, when I first got out of the military. That was a very difficult transition, but I think I learned a lot about myself, and I was able to rely on the resilience that I had built in the military to kind of find my way through it.
I love what you were saying about, not letting something define you entirely. It's just a part of you, or even a stage. Coleman, do you have any insight that you can give us, or a story you can give us on when you felt kind of down and out and somehow you were able to push through?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about, our whole group, John, and John and Andy, I'm sure, can identify with their own individual times in their careers. But, for the sake of staying on theme here, and what we're here to share, in the winter of 2007, 2008, Andy and I and other troops, we were all deploying overseas like crazy, nonstop. And you go through this training and you come up through the system that you come up, and you have these ideas in your mind about how you're going to do overseas in combat and fighting for real and all these other things. And the truth is like, it was, we did about 65 combat operations in 4 months in one deployment in a really crazy place in the world. And we had our dogs getting shot. We had suicide bombers doing what they do. I lost one of my buddies standing really close to me. And that story can go on and on, right? We're not here to tell a war story, but the point was this. The 4 months got to a point where I thought things were so out of control that we would never get them in control. And I think what we realized, what I learned on that particular deployment was, it's back to water's not hot or cold. It's just water. Is you have to eat the elephant in increments, one bite at a time. And for us, it was 24 hours at a time. Like you can't get in the how things used to be game. You can't get in the what's going to happen tomorrow game. You have to address this minute right now, sometimes this second in a calm, cool, and collected way. Not because you're trying to be some like amazing person who's cool under fire. You're just trying to do it because as fighters know, as athletes know, as all these different folks we work with know, mental toughness and resilience from a physiological standpoint is frankly a lot about just managing your energy. Like you have to pick your intensity when you're really going to go hard and when you're not going to go hard, because nobody's a RoboCop, you know, nobody's a superhero. And so, yeah, you just manage it minute to minute, you know?
That's what's interesting. What I'm hearing from you guys, these incredible stories that are, look, just like you and me, you go through times of, identification. But one of the things that obviously is most important in being a Navy SEAL is developing that sense of community and brotherhood. How has that translated into your civilian life? How have you taken that sense of community and brotherhood and applied that to your family and to your community to provide strength?
Who wants to go first? Because I'm not.
I will say that, and it's actually sidestepping your question slightly, but I would say that, well, I seek out those environments, right? They don't just happen. And it's something that, and I imagine the same is for athletes that play at collegiate level and above, this whole camaraderie and brotherhood that you build in this common experience of suffering and success.
Yeah.
I seek those environments out in my personal life as a way to I guess to be a better person, to manage, myself. I pursue sports like Andy, jiu-jitsu, and there's a camaraderie and brotherhood in the mat and suffering that happens together. I know we have fighters on tonight that can talk about that type of stuff. And I believe that pushes me to be a better person. It gives me a safety net of friends and colleagues, that I can grow out with, or I have a common experience. So I believe that I seek it out. And I guess how I apply it into my life is, I just am the person I am. I don't really have a great answer for that. I try to be a good person, and I try to help people out and be a teammate.
Right. Andy, you didn't want
my family, my extended family, or my friends.
Right. Andy, so you didn't want to answer that question. So let me phrase it a different way. How is your experience of being a SEAL and being in there, having to form these tight bonds, how is that translated into life now?
I try really hard not to frame everything through the SEAL lens. It was what I did, not who I am. I think an elephant in the room that most people don't want to talk about is that I was actually closer with a lot of the guys that I served with than I ever was with my spouse, just based on some of the things that we experienced and went through together.
Right.
And it's tough when you get out of that environment, because it's very hard to find that level of relationship absent, it's Timar talked about it, camaraderie is shared suffering and laughter sprinkle. And that's basically what being a SEAL is. It hurts and you're there and you laugh about it with your buddies. And if you're not there, and how you can't verbally describe that to your significant other, nor would I have wanted anybody's significant other to be there going through that anyway. So you end up missing it, and you actually have to, or I found at least, not everybody has that standard in their life, and you can't view everything and everybody through the SEAL lens, because you're going to be wildly disappointed by most people. But you can do the best you can, and I think what was reinforced to me was the value of my own integrity and the value of my word, and absent how other people act, that's still the way that I always want to act, as if, when people ask me to do something, I'm going to attack it in the same way that I would that one of my coworkers, or that I would have if one of my coworkers would have asked me to do it in my previous job and they were relying upon me.
So Coleman, the idea of team, teammate, self, sort of in that order, have you been able to take that concept into your everyday life now?
For the comments already made, the truth is, John, is I've been probably average to poor at it. I prefer a different rule for myself, which is deep rather than wide. And I try to go deep with the people that I'm close to instead of have a lot of friends. I don't know that that's always good for me, honestly, But yeah, you do try to go teammate, self whenever you can. The trouble, as Andy and Timar mentioned, is like when you expect 5, 10, 15 other people who you don't have this crazy background with to be thinking teammate, self, it can be real dangerous, you know? So it takes a lot of time to develop that. And I find that my tribe is really small, but it's really deep.
That's awesome. All right. Listen, I think it's time to bring in our first surprise guest. Greatest bow hunters on the planet, Mr. John Dudley,
Who has
and has also been
who happens to
attacked
be
by wolves. What's up, John?
You're on mute, Dudley. This is day one.
Dudley, you're on mute.
There we go. How's that?
It's much better.
That's awesome.
I'm so bummed I could have been interrupting Andy this whole time. Amateur hour.
Total amateur hour, man. Where are you in the world right now?
Right now, I'm down here working on a new little bow project. It's like one after another right now. I'm just banging these out. And I don't know. I think it's fitting because everyone around seems like they're kind of down about this whole thing that's going on right now. But to be honest with you, what an awesome opportunity to be able to, be grounded with your family. Like, I just wrote this list of everything I know I should have done over the last, however long I've been around this house. And it's just like, okay, every day where we're not able to, to get back to work as usual, or I'm not having to travel, let's just check something off. And the reality is, I think one of the best parts about resilience is just it's rewarding when you accomplish a task. It doesn't matter what it is. Anytime you hit a goal, it's rewarding. So for me, it's like as soon as my dog was tired, come back in, look around, what else do I need to do? And just keep going. And then once this is done and I ship it off, it feels good. And we just keep going after it.
Now, in terms of being resilient, you have spent a lot of time when you're out there hunting. You got to be quiet. You got to be stealthy. Things aren't happening on time, on cue. For you, in terms of dealing with all these quarantine issues, how have you stayed sane, or has it not been that difficult for you?
Hey, like he said, he likes going. I don't like a big group around me. My network of people are pretty small. So if you told me, I had to take my small network of friends and go hide out away from life for a while, I'd be totally down with that. As long as we had some beverages, a couple things that went boom, and I don't know, some firewood, we'll be good to go.
So, Dudley, you famously were attacked by wolves and surrounded by wolves. Just tell us, in terms of being able to frame for the audience of being resilient. I mean, were you ever just petrified out of your mind at that moment? Like, how did you rise above that occasion when you're just surrounded by wild animals?
Well, to be honest with you, and I'll grab one of those skulls for you, but they're not that spooky. But like, here's the first one right here, and and there's another one that's the same, but just to give you an idea, like that's a wolf, right? And so this is a wolf next, so there's a grizzly, and that's the little wolf. So yeah, both of those things have been pretty sketchy situations, but the reality is once things went south, it's like back up to a tree. What's my shot protocol? Because I gotta stuff one in this sucker because one of the two of us is going down. And it was a little bit like Andy said, it was an ambush, very one-sided, And
Right.
I just went down, straight into, honestly, just into kill mode of, what do I have to do to make a shot? And that's all that it mattered. And I think that's all that ever matters, really. When things go tough for people, when people forget about the basics of, what you need to do just to like get through that situation, like they talked about in the water, it just seems like if you just focus on what is that task at hand and what do we need to do, you get out of it. And the reality is, the sketchier that situation, the longer you talk about it and you remember it. So for some of these people who have, never had to deal with any type of hardship, or, never had to deal with kind of a panic or a scare that's happening right now, the reality is, for some people, this might be the awesomest thing you've ever overcome. It's an obstacle to where if you just focus on what we got to do, get through it, it's going to give you something to talk about for a long time. And that's really what happened with the wolves. And that grizzly is actually one I went through shoulder surgery, couldn't pull my bow back. So I had to shoot this thing using my mouth I put a dog leash on a bowstring so I could pull it back with my mouth. And, the same thing, it's made the best story, so
Right.
embrace the suck is such a good thing. It's because it's so true. It's, you want that stuff. The things that Andy and I laugh about the most are the times where we were just the most miserable, and you laugh about it because it's way more manly to just laugh than cry. And those are the things we talk about the most, is when we had those things where we were both just freaking shot, or barely alive with some kind of freaky flu, and puking, and Andy saying he had needles being stuffed through his spine or whatever the hell he said. But we'll talk about it forever. We got through it. We made it through it. That's a part of it. Is being the underdog on something is always the best when you accomplish a task.
That's awesome. To Andy, embrace the suck. What was a time that you remember, man, this sucks? And how does that compare to sort of this COVID thing that's going on now?
Well, there was this one time I was married, and then now I'm not. And that's
That's a solid answer.
yeah, that's like compared to COVID, piece of cake.
Compared to COVID. So Coleman, how have you been sort of staying sane? Because I'm reading, look, on almost every thread that you read, and when you click on the news, it's like the world is ending, but we know the world is not ending. How have you just stayed centered?
I mean, I know it's unique to us, John, but tons of my buddies, we started talking to each other in the first couple of days of isolation. And this is actually what a deployment's like, as I was explaining to one of my civilian buddies. You leave the country, you go overseas, you're semi-isolated on a forward operating base, your house. You have this external enemy that you either go to or it comes to you for whatever reasons. And we're kind of used to this. So the way I stay sane is you build yourself a little 24-hour operating rhythm. You stick inside that operating rhythm. You try to use it as alive time rather than dead time. Learn something new, get in better shape, whatever. But again, I know it's unique to us. We're used to the deployment, but I think it's a chance to do something unique, spend some time resting, frankly. We're not running around the country like crazy people if we work in business, and learn a language, whatever. Guys, I had a buddy on one deployment who did 5,000 pull-ups in 30 days. You can do the math. And
wow.
It's stuff like that that guys build into their day when you're stuck on a forward operating base forever, So it's pretty straightforward.
That's incredible. Timur, I know that you've been having fun during the quarantine. How do you stay so happy? I mean, this quarantine hasn't been a disaster for you at all.
I'll be surprised if I did 5,000 pull-ups my entire time in the SEAL teams. So that's pretty impressive. But first of all, I talked to you all day, John, so that's fun.
It is fun.
a while back, like, and this was part of my sort of like coping or, my process after the military. I just decided I want to do a few things really well and just like take all the noise and just push it out in my life. So I have hobbies and I've been developing over years, and I think Dudley will appreciate my most recent rhythm. What I do to be creative is I do sandbag workouts in the yard. I get my pulse up, and then I go hit the 10-yard targets with the bow while I'm shaking and everything. So that's cool. I mean, I have little workout routines. I focus on my hobbies, my guitar, but one of the things that I think Dudley had said that I really picked up on and I agreed with is this is just an unbelievable time to spend time with your family. I'm sure my family's about ready to kick me out of the house because I'm super annoying. And but just being able to enjoy the outdoors, and I'm doing things like taking conference calls while I'm walking around the park with my family, and I just get to spend more time in the outdoors and more time just focused on things that are important in life. And whether that for me happens to be a hobby, my family, whatever I'm doing, but it's just being able to focus on things that bring you joy, and and take advantage of your surroundings. I have home improvement projects going on as well, so I think that's a good thing. I'm just hitting the checklist and having a good time.
Awesome.
Hasn't been bad.
Awesome. Well, it's now time. We got two more special guests who we're going to bring in, and they're both incredible MMA fighters. God knows, man, I wish that I could be a fighter like these guys. I want to introduce our very first special guest from the MMA world. We have Ryan Bader. Ryan, how are you doing?
What's going on? I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing awesome. Where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Arizona, outside of Phoenix.
Awesome. Also want to bring in Robbie Lawler, current Bellator heavyweight and light heavyweight champion. Robert, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Just hanging out with my family and just biding my time.
That's awesome. So I want to hear perspective from you guys. In terms of resilience, I mean, you guys have a profession where you're getting in a fight, a really physical fight. You can't get more physical. You get knocked down, you got to get back up. What's the key to being resilient? Because certainly everybody gets knocked down, and as we all know, it's the guy who gets back up one more time who survives. How are you so resilient?
Yeah, I think it's mostly your mind. At a certain level, really with anything, especially MMA, we all have that high. We're all on the same high level, but it's putting the work in training. It's getting over injuries. We're in there every day. Beating our body up, we're sparring and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, what goes on up here. If you can push through those certain things, if you have a goal in mind and set that goal, smaller ones for the week, bigger ones, say for a fight, all the way to, I want to be, UFC or Bellator champion. So it's little steps, but really, man, at that level, it's all up here.
Robbie, what do you think in terms of being resilient? You feel what's been your sort of secret sauce? Is there anything?
Really, it just comes down to all the preparation and work you put in. When you put in the work and you prepared, you're ready for those situations. And then when stuff hits the fan, you just go back to your basics. You keep it simple, stuff that you've been working on day in and day out for years. These aren't things that I learned last training camp. These are things I've been working on my whole life. So it's just continuing to grind, continuing to work, and those little things and those little pieces that you've worked on your whole life, your whole fight career, just kind of like you just go back to them every time you're hurt, anytime. Just keep it basic and believe in yourself and just try to make everything work out.
My father had an expression. I want to hear from you guys if you think this is a good one. It's prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Called it the 7 P's of life. And he would sit across from me at dinner and just be like, John, prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. My question to you is, this moment in time of during this quarantine and during COVID, it feels like something that we could never have planned for. And people are sort of going through emotions and going through situations that they never could have imagined. Is there a way to plan for something like this, or is the unexpected actually what always happens in life? What do you think?
That important if you know how to pack your mind, if you're a resilient individual between the ears. I don't really think that the end state is that important. If you have a work ethic and you can tolerate stress because you have willingly sought out stress, whether it be mental or physical in your life, so you have adapted to that and you don't allow it to overcome you. You can't prepare for every single possibility, but you can pack your mind and have your mind prepared for whatever hardship you may face.
I love it. And Coleman, what do you think packing your mind is? Translate that.
Oh, I think the guys hit it right on the head. The athlete athletic performance, and they say the person rose to the occasion. I think it's baloney. Like, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to your level of training, or you sink to your level of preparation. When it hits the fan, you go back to the basics. And packing your mind, I'm guessing, reading between the lines here in Andy's comment, but to me, it's a general preparation in life, in whatever the thing you do is. If you take it really seriously and you go deep, you build all these, we used to talk about in training, you get seepage, right? You get training seepage into other parts of your life. And so it's a pandemic. Well, all your basic skills might be in fighting and hunting and something else, but you've built up a general, a resistance, a tolerance to discomfort, In fact, you enjoy it because it's a chance to exercise what you do. So it's not that big of a deal. Again, if you eat the elephant one bite at a time your entire life, then it doesn't really matter what the crisis is.
Yeah. So, Ryan, eating an elephant one bite at a time. What's that like in your world?
Yeah, it's kind of going back to what Robbie was talking about. I've been to wrestle anymore, and I was kind of looking at mixed martial arts as an opportunity to continue my athletic career. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do something, I want to be the best at it. And how do I get there? Sorry, am I muted?
You're good.
Oh, no.
Okay. And to go from nothing, have one discipline, to try to be a mixed martial arts champion, it's pretty daunting looking at that. But I knew I had the work ethic. I knew I was willing to put in the work. And so it's showing up every day. I knew no one was going to outwork me. So you're putting in that work, and with time, you get better and better and better. And then, I always had that wrestling background, but I literally started from nothing in striking, nothing in jiu-jitsu, and you learn on the fly, and you got thrown into the deep waters of the UFC and learning there. It's a constant learning process, and I'm still learning today, and I've been doing this since 2006. So it's taking something every single day, every training session, and applying it, and I'm never done learning.
All right, I want to play a clip. I was able to catch up with a really good friend of mine, a guy named Brian Callen, and you all may know him from. He's got a recurring role in the Goldbergs. He's on Schooled. He has an incredibly successful podcast called The Fighter and the Kid. Make sure everybody subscribes to that. Make sure you subscribe to Andy's podcast and John's podcast, everybody's podcast. I want to play a clip. I was able to catch up with Brian Callen. So take a look at this, and I want you guys to react to it.
Where is it?
All right, Brian Callen, thank you so much for joining us. Listen, want to know from your perspective, what does resilience mean?
Well, I think a lot of times resilience probably means a couple of things. One is coming to terms with your own limitation, coming to a way to make meaning of that limitation.
In your life, what are some tools that you have used? Because you've had to be incredibly resilient throughout your life and your career.
Yes, well, so my favorite quote, and it's a quote by Michelangelo, and it's, notice how I say Michelangelo and not Michelangelo. I'm Italian. But Michelangelo said, criticize by creating. So no matter where you are, man, there's an opportunity to create. And that's what I try to focus on. I try to look at this time as an opportunity. Every time I'm anxious, every time I'm worried about the world and the economy, I take that energy and I put it into what I'm supposed to be doing, which is making people laugh and writing stories, etc.
Do you feel as though, in terms of overcoming obstacles and pressing on when things are extraordinarily challenging, we clearly as a nation are in a moment that is more challenging than perhaps any moment in history because of the uncertainty? Does your thinking change versus a time when things are super easy?
Look, man, I don't think anything's ever supposed to be easy. That's why I can't relax, but that's okay. That's just my own. Let me give you a metaphor. I did this interview and they said, do you have any advice? I said, hey, dude, I got probably 7 yeses, 7 significant yeses out of the 25 years of no. I sat in traffic for almost all my 30, hearing the word no. Going from audition to audition, waking up in the middle of the night and going, I'm 38, I have no job, I'm a failure. I'm 41, I have no job, I'm a failure. I'm 42, I have no job. I'm 43, I'm doing a recurring, but I'm nowhere near where I thought I'd be, etc., etc. Now I am, I suppose, successful at 53. Look, if I were to throw a rock, and I'm serious about this metaphor, if I were to be standing outside and I threw a rock at every sparrow that flew by, every sparrow for 25 years, every day I did that, I would hit, what do you think? I'd hit maybe, would I hit 1 a month, 1 a week? Would I knock one a month out of the sky? Maybe I would. After 25 years, I'd have a lot of sparrows on my wall. I might even be able to cover every wall in my house with sparrows. And you'd come to my house and go, dude, how'd you kill all those sparrows? And I'd go, I knocked them out of the sky with a stone. And you'd be like, how'd you get that accurate at throwing rocks, dude? You must be amazing at throwing rocks, and you must be the best rock thrower in the world. And I'd go, yeah. And I just let you think that. But what you didn't see was I was throwing rocks over and over at every sparrow that flew by. So it's not that big of an accomplishment. Oh, I'm successful as an actor after 25 years. It takes a brain surgeon 10 years to become a full-fledged brain surgeon.
Right. So, Brian, just leave us with some words of encouragement about, yes, we're in a difficult time. Yes, we need to be resilient. What do you see happening?
This too shall pass. And it's up to you to not only make some meaning out of this, but to adapt. And if you understand that and you accept that the road will be bumpy, that's a good mindset to have. And don't worry, there is a way to navigate any situation. Did you grow when the chips were down? Did you gain deeper understanding? Ask yourself those good questions.
Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate it all. God bless you, and congratulations on your success. We will prevail.
Yeah, and God bless America.
The video, and if you haven't seen it, he buzzed his.
Andy, what do you think about Brian's rock throwing skills?
He doesn't have any. That kid never played organized sports in his entire life. He was doing lines since the age of like 5. He shaved his head in the middle of a pandemic. He looks like an uncircumcised penis sticking out of a vein.
Hey, Dudley, do you think you can get a sparrow in flight?
Well, it's a matter of when did I do it?
When was the last time you shot one out of the sky? Brian's out throwing rocks, taking him 25 years to cover his wall. You're out there and you cover in 25 minutes.
Well, I mean, I choose the arrow just because I can go through one and hit another one on the way down.
I love that. Well, listen, I wanted to bring in, we have another very special guest, somebody who's a very dear friend of mine. We have a charity called Ray of Hope. You can go to rayofhopefoundation.org to check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, our next special guest, one of my best friends in the world, is Mr. Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis, how are you doing?
What's up, JB? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing awesome, man. Where are you in the world right now?
I'm at my place in Florida.
So,
yeah.
So tell me this, Ray. You and I have known each other a really long time. In terms of being resilient, do you have any insight that you can give to our audience on how to dig deep?
Yeah, you know what's interesting, man, is that regardless of religion, right? The good book that I read from says, many are called, but few are chosen. And it's the few that figure out, that life, that you should never pray for a great life. You should pray for the courage to make it through a hard life, And that's why when we go through tough times, if you ever notice something about tough times never last. Tough people find a way. We make a way, we find a way, create a way. And I'm telling you, man, years ago, man, I never forget being raised without a father and different things. But years ago in my life, I ran into a quote. I'll never forget it, from Maya Angelou. She said, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Right? And so if you think about that, man, like anybody, right? Think about that. Yeah, we can be changed by when things happen to us in the way. And I'm telling you what changed for me, man, what changed for me was my posture. My posture changed when I found myself in a position. My language changed. My everything changed. My entire mindset changed. And it changed for the best, right? Because there was never a plan B. There's no plan B, right? It's like most of the guys that we praise, man, that go into these hard wars of life and fight these battles. You go in these holes and you got to promise yourself, I will come out. I am coming out, and I'm gonna bring some people with me. So being resilient is really just having a mindset. And if you think about why a lion is the king of the jungle, it's not because he's the biggest, fastest, or strongest. It's because of his mindset. I wake up king, I go to bed king. Every day of his life, he don't wake up and try to be a zebra. He don't wake up and hang with hyenas. He ain't doing all that. He gonna wake up and he gonna keep his path straight. And for me, man, I started living it my entire life. And then rock bottom for me, it became the solid foundation, right? Which is a result of what my life was built.
Right. Ray, one of the things that you've been so successful at is paying attention to detail. You told me so many stories about, back in your playing days, how you would watch a lineman's finger wiggle, and that would be a tip to you of what to do. In this crazy time of being quarantined, in terms of paying attention to detail, what are the details we should be paying attention to right now?
Yeah, honestly, man, we got to be paying attention to, are we getting better or are we getting worse as an individual?
Wow.
Not based off qualifications. The qualification of what you've done, how much you may make, what job you may have, it's proved that this time it's proved it's all irrelevant. What's actually relevant is the quality of person who you are, and have you challenge yourself every second of your life to become a better you. You got to be aware to the silence, right? This is the first time ever that we've actually heard the world speak. You can now hear the earth living again. You can go outside and you can hear the birds chirping. I live on the beach. You can hear the ocean waves much more clearer because now you have to pay attention to it. I'm just telling you, I think this time is for us as human beings, that when we come out of this, because there's so much pain around it, right? We're losing people, right? It's a serious, serious thing. So what is the result of? The result is you got to be aware enough to know that you're always being watched. And if you are, then you got to be the example, man. And you always got to be really prepared for anything that comes our way. Yeah.
I will tell you what, that idea, Ray, my son was so blessed to be around you. And you actually said to him, I remember you said to him, you never know who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
In this time of quarantine, That's just such a great thing to think about. Of every action, I certainly have found myself, everything that I'm doing seems to be magnified because my family is around, or I'm by myself and I'm questioning, is this the best thing that I could be doing now? I had a question for Ryan. Ryan, in terms of the idea of what Ray was talking about a lion is not hanging out with hyenas. A lion is being a lion. I mean, is that the mindset that you have that helps you through tough situations, that you can do this?
Yeah, for sure. And you're really only as strong as the people around you. I try to put good people around me, whether that be friends, your family's your family, but, training partners, coaches like that. And I've tried to do that throughout my whole life, and I was fortunate enough to be in athletics my whole life and go to Arizona State and wrestle and do all that. And those are lifelong friends. We went through that suffering of a collegiate wrestling program and into MMA, so I think that biggest thing, that mindset is, obviously being resilient. And like I talked about before, but having the right people around you.
Andy, I got a question for you. I get a question off of our chat. It says, does resilience improve more from success or failure?
I would say probably equal measures of both.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really develop it without having at least touched both of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, Ray, tell me this, in terms of success and failure and how they're sort of intertwined, are they sort of the same moment that's just evolving, or do they feel very different? What does it feel like to you? Because every time that I talk to you, I don't hear you say fail. It's like you're always in process of improving whether or not you win or lose.
Every day, every guy on this phone just said the exact same thing, right? Failure and success runs hand in hand. And the only thing that changes it is the decision that you make the moment that it comes to your mind. I'm not going backwards. There's no option, right? You have to have the mentality of saying, I'm in. And I'm strong enough that I know I'm built for this. I played that way. I lived that way. And you can't go backwards. You can't hesitate on that one thought. I always say this, right? It's never the workouts that you do that you remember. It's always the ones that you don't do that you remember, right? It's never the things that you do that you remember. It's the one things that you forgot to tell somebody you love them. You forgot to hug your son. You forgot it's these things, man. And I think it's on the equal playing field. It really is. And it's based off a decision. That's what makes an eagle so unique. An eagle ain't gonna flock with pigeons. He can't.
Right. Dudley, what do you think of that, Dudley?
I love it, man. I've been motivated by Ray since I played football, and honestly, positivity is addictive. So, I think all these guys have built this nucleus around them to where if something like this happens, you just grab a hold of those people that you're going to laugh about this because you're all going to get through it. When everyone was going out and buying every single machine gun, I called Andy. He's just like, dude, I mean, come on, the two of us can freaking bring our families here. We'll be good to go. And that's the mindset, who can you put around you that's positive? What do you really need to do just to get by every day? You need water, you need food, and, you want your family around you. And the bottom line is, as long as everybody's just staying the course, you get through it, and again, it's something that you're going to remember. It's going to be a reward of life that you accomplished getting out of this. So it's an opportunity,
Indeed. Well, listen, we have another very special guest who's about to join us. We have somebody who, at my time at ESPN, I'll tell you what, this person is so near and dear and special to me. It is, ladies and gentlemen, it is Sage Steele. Sage, how are you doing? Oh, no. I think you're on mute. Sage needs.
Okay. Did I do it?
Can I hear you now?
Did I do it?
Yes.
Yes. Hi.
How are you,
guys.
Sage?
I'm good. I just got home. I'm so sorry. I drove way too fast. I'm doing so well. I'm back to work day 2, and I have to tell you, it's weird there in Bristol. It's like a ghost town, but I'm so thankful, honestly.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Sage, one of the things that I've always found remarkable about you is I just don't see you down. I mean, you are a fighter. You work through whatever the case may be, even when life deals you a hand that's not great. How have you always stayed so positive and resilient?
Well, good thing you didn't see me 24 hours ago when I was going to bed and I was on the phone with my mom crying like a baby over I don't know what. So I shouldn't tell you that. I think I'm always this happy person. I'm pretty happy. You know what? I just have I have great perspective, I think, because of the way I was raised, and I have the best parents in the world. They're my best friends. I also feel like, you know, when you're able, when you are in the valley, sometimes you can sit around and mope around, but or you can realize, okay, this is making me stronger, and then when you get back up, you appreciate the good times even more. So maybe it sounds cliche, but I just feel like I've lived such a blessed, charmed life. And it's a choice. I say to my kids all the time, I have 3 teenagers. Happiness is a choice. And I choose happiness because why not? There's so much good in my life.
Ray, what do you think about that? The 3 of us know each other well. I mean, Sage and Ray go way, way back. Ray, what do you think about happiness being a choice?
It's the exact choice that we just got through speaking about, right? Like, listen, pain sits on the same platform as happiness. Right? Joy does too. It all does. And you have to choose every day to wake up with that type of mentality. If you don't, then you dictate your own success, right? And most of the people get caught up in their journeys and never worry about really how great the destiny can be if you continue to live a certain way and have a certain mentality. And I'm telling you, that's what makes, if you ever study the mentality of a lion and an eagle, it's something that makes them different, man. They don't try to be nothing that they're not. They wake up every day and they go do what they got to do. And I'm telling you, Sage, since we were young, we was with each other and I watched each other. We grew right beside each other, but we always remained positive and we always encouraged each other every time we saw each other.
And people are watching. People watch how you react to things, to tough times, whether it's a bad game or a bad decision in your personal life or your work life. People are watching, and it's not just, you know, your family members. It's the media, it's the fans, it's public, it's your neighbors, and it really is a choice. However, it doesn't mean that you can't be down and be in those moments. I think it's very important to acknowledge the pain because from pain can come so much good. So if we ignore it, that's going to come back to bite us too.
Right. Hey, Andy, what do you think about acknowledging pain? What's your sort of view on recognizing things for what they are?
I mean, is there any other pain hurts, but you just still got to deal with it.
Amen. Right? Ray, did you ever feel like, wow, I really am hurt? I mean, you were playing with, you know, one shoulder for the whole last season of your career. I mean, how do you deal with pain? I mean, there's so many people out there right now they've lost their job or they, you know, unfortunately they may have lost a loved one. How do you deal with pain?
Yeah, because I truly believe that sometimes pain brings out the best in you that you don't know you have. Like it challenges you in different areas of your life. You know, physically, I was challenged my last year, but the gift that I was given mentally, it forever took what I did from a leadership role to a totally different level, because I stepped outside of my pain and I saw that people needed my voice. They needed my help. They needed my push. They needed my ear. They needed all of those other things, man. So listen, there are so many different aspects to us. And I just think we have to choose our life. And Sage said it, and so crazy, right? Because we just said it. Right? You're always being watched, John. You're always being watched. Man. Yeah.
I want to hear from Robbie and Ryan. How do you deal with pain? I mean, you guys have a profession that, I mean, pain just goes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, pain's a part of our sport. It's a part of life, but it's what you do with it. When stuff hits you, something hits you hard, what do? Do you tuck tail and run, or do you figure out a way to weave and get in between and move forward and get better and progress? So that's what it all comes down to. Figuring out a way to get the job done when you're in pain, things aren't going your way.
Right. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a mindset. You know, we know walking into a fight that we're going to be in some sort of pain unless you go out there, knock the guy out real quick or whatnot. You know, and so you're walking into that cage with those emotions going, you know, that anxiety. You're going to get punched. You're going to get kicked. You might break your hand, you know, even in a wind. You know, so it's something that you accept and you just have to deal with, you know, and it's how you look at that, you know, and you might tear your knee and that could be devastating out for a year. But what do you do in that time, you know, and how are you going to come back better? Is that going to renew your energy and everything going forward, you know? And so I think that's definitely a mindset, you know, and go look at a picture with Robbie. He one fight he won, and he has a picture and he's yelling, and half his lip is split open from here to here. His lip is in two spots. It's ridiculous.
Unreal. Hey, Sage, what do you think is one thing? And I want to go around the horn to everybody. You guys have been so wonderful. I want to wrap this up, but I want to wrap it up with the one thing you think everyone should be thinking right now. What's a tip you can give us for being resilient? Let's start with you, Sage. I think you're still on mute.
I didn't push that button. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm learning. Rookie here. Listen, for me, and it's very personal. It depends. I mean, to each his own. For me, it's faith. And I feel like my faith has been strengthened over the last 5 weeks of this quarantine. And I feel like I could have gone the other direction. But it's perspective. I feel so blessed. And the fact that we're able to do this, we're healthy enough to do this, you know? I mean, that in itself is a blessing. And I think it's very easy to forget. And again, I got these teenagers screaming out there, and, you know, I'm like, cook your own dinner, like deep breath, you know, perspective. And if you believe, I think this is the time to really reach down deep for yourself and for others around you. That's just me.
Wow. What do you think? What do you think, Ryan? What's the one thing we should all be thinking about?
Yeah, I think your mindset, you know, we could complain that we're in lockdown, we're missing out on going to restaurants or doing whatever, going to bars. But on the flip side, you get to spend a lot of quality time with your family. You can learn a new hobby. You can read books. So I believe it's all outlook, mindset, and how you're looking at things right now.
Cool. Dudley, what do you think? What's your one tip for us? What can you leave us with?
You know, the one thing I've been thinking about this whole time, and I look back to the first time I did something that I was maybe afraid of doing, and I did it. It just seems like once you overcome something once in your life, if you have any type of competitive drive, hardship is very addictive. Like, you almost, when it comes, you almost want to be the one that makes it out of it. And this is really no different. There's so many opportunities for people who have never had to deal with any type of struggle or any type of hardship. This is something to where you have the ability to just do everything you need to do, come out of this. And the reality is you're probably going to want to experience something hard again. You know, you just have to just accomplish something good one time in your life and get through something that's tough. And you're gonna seek it out in another way. You know, it's no different than, you know, Andy goes from, you know, getting shot at to now he's, you know, trying to fly wingsuits halfway across the world. And, you know, you will, that stuff is addictive. And if you make it through it, you're gonna get addicted to finding struggle somewhere. And it's just another way to accomplish a goal.
Andy, what's the one thing you think that we all should be focused and thinking about right now?
I think the one thing we all have right now an abundance of is time. So you have time to reflect on yourself, and hopefully you can do that objectively. And if you can take an objective look at yourself, I mean, everybody on this panel has a different background. And I don't understand the mechanics at a deep level of everything that goes into what everybody does. But I know that there's more value in pursuing the things that make you uncomfortable or that you are the weakest at, as opposed to spending more time on the things that you are already good at. I think people need to seek things that make them uncomfortable. You know, I don't know anything about football, but I bet you Ray, in his own personal skill level, always knew where the deficiencies were. And there'd be more for him to gain by working on those deficiencies than strengths. And I'm not a UFC fighter, but I bet, you know, both of these guys know the weaknesses of their game. And they're going to improve themselves as an athlete by not spending any more time on what they're good at, or just enough time on what they're good at, and diving headlong into what they're not good at. Same thing with Dudley with archery. I understand archery at a very basic level, but I know where my deficiencies are, so I focus there. So what I would recommend that people do is take an objective look at themselves and pursue the things that scare them, because it's likely the things that scare them, that's where their deficiencies are, and that's how you can come out of this stronger than you went into it. You have the time.
I love that. Coleman, give me some words of wisdom of what's one thing we should be thinking about.
We were on the topic, JB. Got a great piece of advice from professional high-altitude mountaineer, a guy named Chris Warner. He was asked by a buddy of mine one time, when did you become a professional mountaineer? He didn't say when I could read the weather. He didn't say when I could prevent or stay away from avalanches. He didn't say when I could use my ice tools better. He said I became a professional mountaineer when I changed my relationship with pain. When I changed my relationship with pain. And so are we in pain right now? Some people certainly are. We're mostly in inconvenience. The truth is most people are just being inconvenienced. Change your relationship with inconvenience.
Wow. Timar, tell me something. What's the one thing the one nugget you want everyone to be thinking about? This is some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough kind of being at the end of this one, you know, after listening to all the great wisdom that's been imparted. But I heard things that I'd like to just reinforce, and it kind of crystallized my thinking on it. And Sage and Ray talked about a lot. Authenticity is kind of something I heard and what they were talking about. And I think you have to be authentic. You have to understand who you are. It may have been Roman earlier talked about knowing your limitations. But I think you have to focus on what you can control, and don't waste emotion on things that you can't control, because that's just going to sap your energy and make you negative. I believe you have to take things for what they are right now. Use your time. Personally, I focus on improving my weaknesses. I like the analogy of being a lion. I think you can put yourselves in situations where you're uncomfortable and can grow. But at the end of the day, you have to focus on what you control. You have to be authentic, and you have to be adaptable. It's like, you know, when you drop a rock in the river goes around the rock. There's a lot of people that are losing their jobs right now. They're going to face hardships that 3 or 4 weeks ago, they didn't even think that was a possibility. Everything was stable in their lives. What I can say is that we are going to get through this. And if you use your time wisely and you focus what you can control, you can find opportunity in this and come back even stronger than where you were before it all started.
Wow. Hey, Robbie, I want you to give us the one thing that we should all be thinking about.
It all comes down to focus. I mean, you can focus on what you don't want, but I think everybody needs to focus on what they want, being positive in their lives, and then push towards their goal of whatever that is. And if you stay positive and you stay focused and keep moving towards that, that's what people need to do. Focus on the positive.
Awesome. Ray, bring us home.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it, right? If you go from the reverse way, right? We went from focus to change my relationship with pain to really find your own weakness, right? To really mindset, hardship, time, and reflect. The bottom line is we're all saying the exact same thing. This time is to find a better you. It's a duty to find a better you. That's why Sage say she feels so connected to the spirit. Like, I'm so connected to the spirit now because my consistency in my Bible every day has been almost 2.5 years. But to meditate on his word, to have time to meditate on his word, to not be jumping on planes and watch people die. Man, it's why we got to get back to finding who we are individually. So now we can obey the word when the word says, love thy neighbor as thyself. and giving to the poor is like giving to God himself. So that's when we actually transcend got everybody. And then we find out that really life ain't about what I can actually gain, it's what I can leave. And that's what everybody is talking about. Find the better you in this time of isolation. If you lost a job, become creative. Maybe losing what you're losing is giving you the ability to become creative. It was everything that I found out about myself that I was not strong in, that I became stronger in, and I'm still working on it every day. Every day, and so losing people, I lost people, I keep losing people, and the question I keep asking myself is, Lord, what are you asking me to do? And he says, I never leave you nor forsake you, but I need you to finish your race. A lion finishes his race. An eagle finishes his race. It's time for mankind to finish our race and simply be the example. Just find the better you.
Amen. Sage, Steele, I know you literally just got off work. I know you haven't had anything to eat. You got kids to see and take care of. Everyone's got to get home. Listen, I cannot thank everyone enough for joining us for this first live stream. I really cannot thank you guys enough. I mean, Ryan, Robbie, John, Timar, Coleman, you guys have just been unbelievable. Andy, your insight. I mean, Brian Bader, you're amazing. I cannot thank you guys enough for taking the time. I feel so blessed to be in a position where we all can connect and have a reason to connect. And maybe all of this craziness and maybe all of this quarantining, us being apart, maybe it's designed to bring us together and realize that we can't go through life alone, that we actually need each other. That might be one of the most important lessons from all of this. So listen, God bless you all. Thank you so much. Let's keep our chin up, stay resilient, and we will see you next week when we do this. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
What's
man.
up? Later.
Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever ring the bell.